This is the setup video for my new Seahorse case that I picked up to use with my 3DR solo drone. I had a lot of people asking about how I did the foam layout, so I figured I'd throw the photos and some of the video clips together to actually give an overview of how I got to that process. It was really quite simple. I just kind of figured out how I wanted to arrange things, laid them on there, and picked and shaped the grid to my liking. I apologize for the kind of risque nature of this clip. However, I just wanted to really demonstrate how easy it was. I literally needed nothing as far as tools. It was just my hands and a little bit of planning. So I'll let the videos explain the rest.
Okay. And now that I've got kind of a basic outline pulled from this here, kind of fit in there perfectly, I am just slowly going through setting this down, and I'm trying to go with a pretty tight allowance here so it actually is kind of padded in there, and going around and just seeing how each of these pieces kind of fits in so that I can make sure that it's always as padded as it needs to be without also sacrificing kind of wear and tear on the controls. Like, I don't want this to always be flipped up, held down, whatever. I want it to have its own room. Same thing, I don't want to put any undue strain on the antennas or just any part of the radio in general. So carved a little bit more out here. As you'll see, this side actually comes out a little bit further than this one. I technically could leave a couple in here, but when these are on their own as a single, they aren't the most stable. But that side kind of accounts for the shoulder lever, and now I just would slowly push this on here, pick it back up, and look how it fits down in there very, very securely. Now, something I did not yet account for is that in the regular solo case, the solo actually sits on top kind of as a space-saving method, and it still leaves room for the gimbal, the controller, stuff like that. However, if this case were to lay on its face, then this could free float up, hit the controls up on the bottom, which we don't want to do. So how that was prevented in the stock case is this foam block. Now it's really durable, it's going to last, so I'm going to try and implement that. So the next step I'm going to do is to make room for it so that it can actually sit on here. It'll protect the controls, it also will protect the solo, and it'll hold the two separate, but it'll let me be way more efficient with my space. Foam brick fitting in very nicely there, protecting the control sticks. I have all this wonderful product of my work. I can actually take the solo and put it in here. Now, some people have recommended using toothpicks to kind of outline the stuff. What I'm finding is just by simply kind of centering it and counting kind of the grid, as I'm used to counting stuff before, I can kind of align stuff exactly how I want, but also just kind of pressing down, the general weight of it will actually usually leave imprints enough so that you can see where it's creating contact. And then you can kind of start there and just work your way out by setting it back and repeating the process. Here we have the cutouts. So I had to go a little bit further back behind the control here, and I did double wide because by the time the actual leg goes down in the slot, since they're slanted, they require a little bit more room, so I couldn't do just a single. And I currently made a hole just for the GoPro frame. Once the gimbal comes in, obviously that is going to take up quite a bit more space there. So in my game plan, I'm trying to consolidate that here, but as that gets bigger, I will be able to just take a chunk out right here to make room for that. And that should still leave me room over here for my batteries, and I'll be able to put props, chargers, and GoPro stuff up here, hopefully. I don't intend to have like 20 batteries like some people do. I'll probably stick around, I'm at 2 right now, and I don't see myself surpassing 4, so it's pretty easy to find room for batteries, because these take up, if I put this down on here, they take up, what, 8 worth of the grid, so that's not bad. So the next step that I'm going to do is, now that this fits down in here. It rests perfectly in the foam block still, so I've got that link direct in there. I also made sure that it still closes. It does already touch the top, as you can see this big crate, just enough to hold it open, but this foam is probably 3 inches thick, so I'm able to close and seal it without issue, and hopefully that's going to give it enough padding. I'm sure there will also be more resistance pushing back once I have the second foam block here up on top of it. So my next step is going to be getting accessories and stuff in there. However, I think what I'm going to attempt to do is first get the second foam block to accommodate this all down in here, and then that way I can kind of figure out what kind of room I might have up here or even right here for accessories and stuff. So yeah, let me get to work on that. Alrighty, so huge pile of foam later. I have sculpted out the top level. I've got some weird geometric. So I started out just trying to match the large chunk here and just match this wall because luckily this foam block is vertical, so it was going to be identical no matter what. But the controller sloped back, so I was going to have to make some room for it and the phone mount. And then the arms also don't come out at a direct angle, so I was going to have to account for that. And then legs that also continue to slope upward. So if you look down in here, my previous hole for the legs, I had to expand up to here to make room for the lights and the motor pods. And then in here, I actually had to make room for the body because just the frame's not enough. And then the same thing up here, you can see the holes, the original holes just for the legs, and then the holes to fit the entire thing in. So how that all fits together is we have the controller with room for the antennas, room for the knob here. And I was doing this horizontal, but one thing that I'll cover here in a sec is after I get the foam in, and notice the foam's not exactly centered. So the foam could actually step up one. And then once I get the solo in here, like so, what I noticed is I was getting just a little bit of rub there. However, I can rotate this to clear that. It's no higher than the actual motor pods are. So all of this sits real nicely just on top. And then when I close, seals, super easy. So I actually used that as I got closer and closer to completing the layout, because that would actually press this down in. I'd be able to pick it up and out and see where it was pressing down. It does get a little bit of pressing still here in the center, but I don't really mind that. And by being a little bit careful and peeling out in sheets rather than just individual peel and plucks, I was left with a lot of blocks kind of similar to this. So I figure if I do need to travel long distances, these will easily kind of slide down in there to account for that. I can really pack all that in and make sure that it stays tight and secure. So, satisfied with that part. I've got the main stuff, the radio, the solo, the frame mount. Frame mount would even fit with the GoPro. I tried that as well. And I held on to this little block. This is what the solo shipped with. So hypothetically, if I was just going down the street and throw this in here, grab my battery here, it just keeps the battery so the connection is not made. So it allows it to be shipped and it won't slide to lock in. So technically, I could probably store a battery right up on top there with the solo. So that accounts for one more location. Now, if I was traveling long distances, with lipos, you always got to be careful with that stuff. But I mean, technically, I could just throw a piece of tape over those contacts to make sure there's no issue, and then put it in there. So yeah, and it's accessory and battery time now, I guess. Okay, so my final overview, I managed to get all of this stuff to fit. This case is, I think, perfect for what I was looking for. Get that hair out of there. Nice, quality built, seems to seal well. It's got a really cool automatic pressure leveling system where when the hinge closes, it actually will cover up this hole, which allows it to literally lock in and seal with that little input there. It's also locking, and then it has molded clip for a actual padlock as well, which is a nice little added feature. So the only negative that I can say for it is, I'll go ahead and put my foam back in, is you'll notice that it doesn't, I mean, everything is pre-cut well, except back in here, there's this gap. Well, that's because they don't pre-cut it to account for the wheels. So it is just trying to squash itself in. Minor thing, but you know, whatever. Hey, it takes half a star away from this quite quality product. So frustrates me that I can't get that to go down. Maybe I'll go at it and I'll carve at it. The other thing, this edge only has one non-perforated cut. This one, which is 2. So that was kind of weird because I would think things would be centered, but I wasn't able to take anything out of this row. And it actually is the outer one, so there's this separate layer over here. I don't know. A couple weird things with the primary layer of foam there, but in the grand scheme of things, not a big deal. So we'll go ahead and layer this on top. Hopefully, I didn't, oh yeah, I got that upside down. Fit that in. Now, one thing I will say is this foam definitely is stronger if you can get it to be too thick. So too thick between your compartments is ideal. They hold shape real well. If you only have one, you run into some weird issues like this, which kind of don't matter once you have stuff in them, but you know, it's a thing. So I'm assuming that'll go away if I plastidip this, which I'm kind of considering doing, just to call it out. So this crazy awesome geometric foam now holds everything. So let's go ahead and throw it all in together. So I tried something a little unique. Instead of having the exact same depth, certain things are deep, others are shallow, but I specifically did it split here on the props so that the props would actually not be so hard to reach, because if I put it deep enough to hold 2 full pairs, I was running into the issue that I wasn't going to be able to grab them out easily. So like this, I can now pop them in there, essentially get 2 full sets of props in there, which is pretty awesome. So yeah, and if I kind of put them in there back to back, they fit even better rather than just throwing them in. So there's that, and I've got my L shape here, which I use for the smart charger for the batteries. It's L-shaped because not only does it have this cable built onto it, but we have a standard 2-prong power cable. Now that 2-prong power cable, if I can wad it up with one hand here, can fit down perfectly in the L. Next up, I got my GoPro. I actually have the GoPro in here right now as opposed to the frame, but the frame will, you know, it fits. It's kind of pointless. So the GoPro is the same size hole, actually, as one of the battery holes. For the time being, since I don't have a lot of batteries, I left the bottom filled in. However, even if I later core it out for one, the mount actually holds itself up. So even if I do put it in a battery hole, it will work. Slide that back down in there. Next up is big hole. So I ordered 2 batteries from Smawtree. They're very slightly bigger, but it also came with a triple charger, so I can keep all of that in here. A regular USB to charge both the batteries, or just data cable to hook up to my computer if I don't want to use a SD card. But I also decided I would store my extra SDs in here, and then I did one of my favorite things, which is use a label maker and label the box. So even if I'm traveling and someone wants to open it up, it's more apparent what's in there. The first 2 battery holes, I have my batteries neatly labeled. That's how I flight log what my battery life was. It doesn't, hide the aesthetic because it's actually hidden on the inside. So we can slide that down in there. And optionally, I can actually put them in with the battery gauge up if I want to see the battery gauge. But I'd prefer the labeled side so I know which one I'm flying with even. And then I was tempted to not even bother putting this in here. This is the charger for the actual radio or the transmitter. It's fairly basic, but the thing is that thing's got like a 6 to 8 hour battery life, so I don't really know why I'd need to travel with this, but maybe in the future I would. So I found it was like a good 3x2 slot. You can kind of shove the cable here between the prongs, and it slides right down in there like so. Simple. Cool. And then the rest is the actual Solo itself. So we have radio like so, and we have my foam block. Make sure the controls are in there. Cool. Then we have the Solo, which very neatly nests down in there. And again, the only places where it flexes is in here. We get some flex, but not a big deal. And yeah, so I managed to fit absolutely everything in there. And again, I can shove some of these wedges in here just to give it some extra protection, and we're set. So everything is in there, it all fits, and it all even stands up aside from maybe the props. So that's how you know everything kind of fits, is I can just throw this up like that. It's all right there. One last thing I figured I'd cover for posterity's sake is the general size that I used for each item. So for the L-shaped charger, we have 4, 2, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then obviously 6 right here. So 6, 2, 4, 2, 2, 4. For the box here, this is slightly bigger than the batteries. So this one is at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we have 6 by 2 for the box that this came in, which leaves this here at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 by 2. Over here we have the exact same 5 by 2 for a battery, 3 by 2 for that charger, and then the prop one, well, that's the general size of props. The batteries that are 5 by 2, I mean, that's a pretty snug fit. They're not going anywhere. That also leaves me room with this configuration. I'll be able to still leave some room over here and hopefully be able to fit in another couple batteries as extras if I ever expand to that level. And because I kept that foam block, as I've mentioned before, one of my batteries will actually be able to transport and store on the Solo. It will keep it from having that connection in there, so we're safe. And again, I can just throw some Scotch tape over that to keep the terminals clean. So yeah, pretty awesome, super happy. I mean, to be able to fit 2 props worth and essentially, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 batteries and chargers, I'm completely happy with this case. I mean, can't really beat the price. Spent $110 for it on Amazon with quick shipping, so I would definitely recommend Seahorse. I'll probably be picking up another one, maybe smaller, just for my GoPro accessories, or maybe even my DSLR. So awesome case, really great. It's got some fantastic wheels on the bottom, very reinforced handles, and this awesome, oh man, it's aluminum back here. Pop that lever. You actually have a wheel here. So very cool stuff. I'll cover it a little bit more if I need to, but other than that, I'm very happy with my purchase. Time to put some stickers on it.
I hope that video proves useful for most of you. I think I nailed most of the questions that you guys asked. If you're stumbling across this on YouTube as a new 3DR solo owner, please feel free to hit me up at the email on the screen. I would love to answer any questions that I can. I'm brand new to the hobby and kind of getting into aerial photography and stuff like that. So I will be blogging about that as soon as I get my website up and running. Obviously, it is the website on the screen. So please feel free to hit me up, contact me, follow me on social media. Let me know if there's anything that I can film, answer, do, because I'm just looking to grow, and the challenge is a welcome one. So thanks for watching, and I hope you guys enjoy your solos. Get out there and fly.